as a silver lining of what happens when we stop the polluting industries and stop the polluting traffic, when the air has become so much more breathable in the last few months. I will show you that graph in a minute. So the question to ask ourselves is whether this is the past that we want to take our future into. This shows a picture of 4 different cities in India just before Corona. The top left is Mumbai, the Western Expressway. The top right is Bengaluru. The bottom left is Chennai. And the bottom right, that looks like a parking lot, is actually Delhi cars trying to enter the Gurgaon Expressway. Every single city, every single road is congested, chock-a-block with cars and traffic, and of course, polluted, as we saw. So the natural question seems to be, do we need bigger roads, more roads, maybe flyovers? Now, first of all, let's look at our ranking. If we look at congestion, again, unfortunately, we topped the world rankings. Bengaluru was number 1 in the TomTom Congestion Index just a few months back. This is world ranking. Mumbai is number 4, Pune not far behind, then New Delhi, and soon enough you scroll down, you will see the rest of our cities. Again, we have to ask ourselves, is this the past we want to go back to and bring into our future? Now, as I said, the natural question is, should we build a flyover? Well, these are pictures from over the flyover. Look at the way the flyovers are. Then you may ask the question, maybe over the flyover is crowded because under the flyover has been relieved of congestion. So वहाँ भी इतना सारा traffic है under the flyover. This is under the flyover. There is no difference between over the flyover and under the flyover. And this shows you 2 lanes of traffic. एक lane flyover के ऊपर जा रहा है और एक lane flyover के नीचे. They're both waiting. In other words, Bangalore, for example, has 47 flyovers, or no flyovers, it still looks the same. The left and the right are roads without flyovers, and it still looks the same. So, unfortunately, we are asking ourselves the wrong question. Traffic is a symptom of the problem. Traffic is not the problem. Transport is the root cause of the problem. When we have 6,500 buses in Bangalore, when we have 350 kilometers of metro in Delhi, when we have 430 kilometers of suburban train in Chennai, when we have 75 lakh daily passengers on the suburban rail, on the Mumbai local, फिर भी our cities are extremely crowded, extremely congested, and are still unsustainable. So what is the lesson? So some of us and citizens for Bengaluru have been working on this, and some of the things we've learned, I've tried to capture in 2 simple lines. Each trip that we make needs to carry more people, and each trip we make needs to be faster. Look at these trips. In each of these cars, in each of these motorbikes, you see 1 person. Imagine if you're walking on the road and you have a big box around you in the shape of a car, and how much space you'll occupy. Each person is occupying the space that maybe 5 or 6 people can occupy. Therefore, the roads, no matter what you do, people keep buying more cars, and therefore the roads stay congested and stay polluted. So the real problem is not traffic, the real problem is transport. And we have to ask ourselves, how do we solve the transportation problem? Clearly, 6,500 buses are not enough for Bengaluru. Several hundred kilometers of metro or local are not enough for Delhi and Chennai. And even 75 lakh people going by local is not enough for a city of 2.2 crore. So what do? What we have learned through the citizens movement and Citizens for Bengaluru, what we have learned by looking at all this is that, number 1, we need to move people, not vehicles. What we are trying to do by building road space for cars is to move more cars. But as I said, each car is like a huge polluting box around you, a box that takes the space of 5 or 6 or 8 people, but moves only 1 person. So the first rule is, how can we make each trip move more people? Clearly, you need mass transportation. And this is our lessons before COVID hit us. Right? We also need public transportation, not just private mass transportation. COVID has shown us what happens with so many people trying to move and if public transport isn't available. The migrant crisis, the humanitarian crisis during COVID has more than clearly illustrated what happens when buses are not plied, what happens when we don't have enough trains, what happens to ordinary people who cannot afford private transportation. Right? So not only the transport has to move a lot of people, be mass transit, it also has to be publicly owned transportation, which is affordable and accessible by all. Motorbikes and cars are not affordable and accessible by all. Again, the silver lining in the COVID cloud has been that pollution has reduced, congestion has reduced, because the only way we could go buy our groceries was either by walking or by cycling. Industries were shut down. My friends in Delhi tell me, while I'm based in Bangalore, my friends in Delhi tell me the Yamuna is clear. My friends in UP tell me the Ganga is much clearer than it used to be. So if we prioritize cycling and walking, and today being World Bicycle Day, it's the perfect day to talk about this. If we prioritize biking and walking over motorized transport, and recognize that all human beings don't move the same way. Everybody doesn't have a car. Some people will want to walk because it's close by. Some people will take a train because it's 30 kilometers away. Some people will go by bus because my office, for example, is 6 kilometers away. We need to recognize that transport in cities needs to be multimodal, and that most of the transport should be between mass transit and non-motorized transit. So that only 20% of the transit is by private vehicles like cars and motorbikes. And by doing this, we can reduce the congestion and reduce the pollution. In fact, Singapore has a target of getting it to 75%, if not 80% by 2030. In our cities, 40 to 50% of the transport continues to stay on private, therefore congesting the roads. No matter how many flyovers you build, how many roads you widen, you end up getting the same answer because more and more cars hit the road. In addition, of course, we need parks and open spaces and an efficient use of spaces with mass transit. Remember, this is all pre-corona learnings. And as Himanshu was saying before, what does corona teach us about all this? So in the pre-corona days, many of us came out on the streets to demand buses. As you can see in the top left, bus bhagya beku. In Kannada, that means we want to be blessed with buses. We asked for trains, Modalu train beku. Bengaluru is one of the biggest cities in the country without a suburban train system, railway system. So many of us, thousands of us came on the street, took a bus yatra, took a train yatra, and launched the movement for sustainable mobility. And we even launched campaigns for walking and cyclable streets with Nadelu Vidu. But we are not the only street. We are not the only city that did that. If you look at Mumbai, the top left corner, that is protests in 2019 for more Mumbai Novo locals. In fact, in the richest city in the country, Mumbai, we had a foot-over bridge accident, if you recall. The richest city in the country did not repair the foot-over bridge to accommodate the kind of crowds, the kind of commute needs, the kind of requirements that people have. Again, the top right corner is a protest for more Chennai suburban trains. Right? And as I was saying, we also got on the street to say we have a right to walk, senior citizens especially, without proper pavements and proper roads. All this shows that the needs of the city, the transport needs of the city are not being met. Not the traffic problem, but the transport needs of the city. So where do we go from here? COVID has imposed some constraints on us as we unlock. The constraints can be summarized in two words at the top: health constraints and economy constraints. If we continue to stay locked down, the economy will get affected. If we unlock entirely like before, we will end up with health constraints, not only because of COVID, because of the same pollution and congestion that we used to have. So what can we do about mass transport and public transport? Here are some simple recommendations that many experts around the world have given, and CFP as well endorses, which is that buses and trains must be allowed to ply again, but with physical distancing and with hygiene practices in place. Make sure that they ply at reduced capacity, maybe. Maybe air conditioning is an issue. These are all the constraints that the unlocking poses on us. Cycling and walking are great ideas. They automatically allow for physical distancing, especially cycling. But unfortunately, we don't have proper cycling lanes. And I'm sure Sathya Sankaran, the bicycle mayor of Bengaluru will talk about this extensively today. Plus, pavements are unsafe. And also, it's a burden on older people and pregnant women and people that are not in the pink of health to be walking and cycling. What do we do? Similarly, the constraint is that we need to have a lot of publicly owned transport because that is what is affordable to the people at the bottom of the economic pyramid, to economically challenged people, your daily wages, your maids, your security guards, your construction workers. And publicly owned transport should not have the burden of revenue generation because when you reduce capacity, when you start putting constraints on public transport, it cannot generate the kind of revenues that a privately owned enterprise can generate. The biggest constraint, I believe, is actually not all this, is the fact that our local government isn't empowered and is poorly funded. World over, if you look at mayors, if you look at the mayor of Los Angeles, if you look at the mayor of Milan, if you look at the mayor of London, they're all coming out and putting together plans to open the streets for walking and cycling, to renew buses and trains, increase the frequency of buses and trains. What did the migrant crisis teach us? If you run very few Shramik trains, there'll be a lot of crowding. If you run a lot of trains, a lot more people can get it. So mayors all over the world are putting together plans under the COVID constraints, plans that will be delivered not just now in 2021, 22, 23, all the way to 2027 to increase walking, cycling, buses, trains, make it more hygienic, and make sure that local governments are funded because they are the ones that own the streets and can cater to local needs. So if we want a break from pollution and if we want a break from congestion, if we want to take the best things from the past and leave out the worst of the past, this tells you the story. Every single city reduced pollution when the traffic came down. So how do we now resume transport without the traffic? So here are some suggestions for a post-COVID manifesto. We can reduce the bus and train capacity, but increase the frequency. We can make sure that hygiene is maintained with masks and sanitizers at the same time, using passes, e-tickets to reduce the number of, contact, to reduce the times we contact each other. Ensure we go back to the basics. What was the basics? Not air-conditioned buses and trains. Open suburban rail with reduced capacity. Not the metro, but suburban rail. Ordinary buses without air conditioning, again, reduce capacity, maybe 1/3 or half the number of passengers. Autos, which can take more people, but not mass transit. Increase the pavement space, reassign road space, reduce the space for cars, increase the space for cycle lanes and wider pavements. Again, all of this needs to be accessible to everybody. Jane Jacobs famously said, the lady who designed the New York City walkable spaces, she famously said that a city that is created by everybody will cater to everybody. If we only create it for cars and rich people, it will only cater to cars and rich people. That too, it will stop catering very quickly, and we will end up with this that we stared at for a long, long time. So we need to make sure that transport that we open up isn't just cars. It is affordable, accessible transport. Buses and trains have to come back, but safely and with physical distancing, with reduced capacity and with greater frequency. And finally, how do we fund all of this? We fund all of this by taking the money that we have been building tens and hundreds of flyovers in every city. We've been assigning to road widening, and take the money out of that and assign it to non-motorized transport for a while. For 50 years now, we've been assigning it to motorized transport. Can we not assign it to non-motorized transport for a decade to see the differences in our cities? And most importantly, empower the local corporation, local government, and use the local taxes that we generate, the parking fees that we generate for local sustainable mobility, because they are the ones that are in touch with you and me. The parliament, the prime minister, the chief ministers, you and I can never go meet them, but we can walk across and meet our corporators and communicate that our pavements are broken, that there are too many cars flooding the city, so we are not able to actually journey for our convenience. So these are the suggestions I'd like to place on the table with respect to Citizens for Bengaluru. And I'd like to leave us with a thought that there is one moment between what used to be and what will be. The congestion and pollution that used to be and what will be in our future. And that moment is now. And we can seize that moment and take a decision for sustainable mobility, or we will just go back to the worst of the past. Thank you very much for the opportunity. If you have questions, I'm happy to answer. Himanshu, you can take back control.
Thank you, Tara. Okay, I would like to invite our next speaker, Dr. Ashish Verma. Dr. Ashish Verma is Associate Professor in Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore. He is currently in the Transport System Engineering, Civil Engineering Department of ISC. Sir, I would like you to take over and please introduce yourself in the best way possible. I'll give you presenter rights as well.
Sure. Hope I am audible.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Can give me the control. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Is my slide visible?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thanks. Good afternoon. Sorry, it's still good morning. Good morning to you all. And my first of all, hearty congratulations and best wishes on the World Bicycle Day, especially to all the cycling enthusiasts and all those who promote cycling as a sustainable mode. It's a great day to have such a webinar, and thanks to National Productivity Council for organizing this webinar on such an important day. I'll be happy to present some of my thoughts on sustainable urban mobility, and I've added in the title the word livable Indian cities, because that's what is the end goal of what interventions we want to do with sustainable urban mobility. We want to make our cities more livable and improve the quality of life. Before I move ahead, due acknowledgement and thanks to all my research lab students who have helped me put up this presentation together. Some of them are also joining this webinar, so thanks to them. Of course, I would say Tara's presentation has set the context quite well, and so our the job of other panelists is easy now. Thanks to Tara for that. I'll quickly move on. When we think about the post-corona world, as Tara was also mentioning, it's important to take a quick recap at what the pre-COVID-19 world was, because many times our memories are very short. We tend to forget what we were experiencing earlier, and this whole experience of 3-4 months that we have been going through with COVID probably would have erased a lot of that memory. So what we had been seeing in the pre-COVID world was the growth of traffic congestion. Tara has already shown nice pictures of how our cities were gridlocked with traffic. We have also been seeing growth of accidents. India is on the top of the countries with the highest number of deaths due to road accidents. In fact, during this COVID time, we have actually saved a lot of life due to road accidents because there were nobody on the roads. About 400 people dying every day on the road. That's how it used to be. Of course, we have been seeing the growing environmental problems, degrading air quality, increase in the air pollution, and especially health hazards like PM 2.5. We have also been seeing increase in carbon emissions and huge impact on climate change, and a general overall increase in the noise due to more vehicles on the road, their engine noise and the noise coming from honking and horns. We have also seen, because of a road infrastructure based interventions being predominantly done, which only encourages pursuing motorized vehicles, more and more consumption of petrol and diesel, which is of course not desirable and sustainable, especially for a country which is dependent almost 70-80% of their requirements through imports. And of course, the impact of these has been the negative health impacts, especially due to sustained exposure to pollutants like NOx, PM 2.5, and so on. And all this, some effect, we had been seeing how our cities have become less and less livable, and the whole quality of life and livability of the cities had been degrading. So this is what the pre-COVID world was. Um, but what did we observe during this whole lockdown, during this whole COVID? That the nature was reclaiming its space, and the nature was thriving when the humans were staying indoors. Uh, we could see that dolphins were seen in River Ganga. We could see a lot of turtles coming back to the Orissa coast. We could see some of the towns in say Punjab and other states able to see mountain ranges clearly from their homes, which are more than 200 kilometers away after many decades, which a sight that they had been longing for quite long, mainly because the pollution reduced so much and the sky became so clear, and of course the wonderful sight of so many flamingos in New Bombay. I also bummed upon this nice picture of Delhi. I think Tara was also showing that how Delhi was, say, last year or pre-COVID, and how it was during this COVID period. This clearly shows how much the nature has explained us the visible signs of livability and how a livable city actually look like. In the pre-COVID world, we were just talking about livable city, and this is how livable city should be, but we got a tangible understanding of livable cities. But when and certainly, all of us would like to keep our cities like this. But will this be a new normal? This is the big question. Can we contain and maintain our cities as livable? And if yes, will it be temporary or forever? Uh, the question, of course, temporarily maybe yes, till our great Karuna uncle is around us. It will keep us in fear, and there will be restrictions on moving around or opening up establishments and so on. So the travel demand would remain reduced, and would probably have similar signs of cities being better. But this would be temporary. If we don't do anything, then and as soon as our Karuna uncle is gone, it's for sure that we'll get back to same business as usual, crowded bus, congested streets, and so on and so forth. If we have to make this as a new normal forever, it can only happen if we learn lessons from this pandemic, and we think about specific interventions that are introduced to make it a new normal. Unless we don't learn these lessons and have interventions that would make the situation forever, ever, we would in no time be back to business as usual. And if you think about post-COVID world in business as usual, that means just wait for the virus to go and back to same kind of stuff, same kind of intervention, same kind of flyover and elevated corridor business. We are only going to see even higher traffic congestion, worse than what we have been seeing earlier, because now personal mobility options will be preferred more as compared to sustainable modes. Public transport, in fact, is facing existential crisis in this situation because of the social distancing and the fear risk of virus being spreading fast with public transport. So we are going to see more and more preference to personal mobility, at least for those who have choice, and so there will be even higher traffic congestion. We are going to see more road accidents, especially when more vehicles are there. Vulnerable road users, pedestrians, cyclists, two-wheelerists. We are going to see more accidents and more deaths in business as usual post-COVID. There will be even higher environmental problems. Since more vehicles would be flying, we'll see more exhaust emissions, more engine noise, and more carbon emissions. Of course, with higher mileage and higher vehicle kilometers traveled by motorized modes, we are only going to see even more higher consumption of petrol and diesel, more negative impacts due to sustained exposure to emissions and pollutions, and further degradation of quality of life due to the sum effect of all the above. So if we think that we will get back to business as usual once the virus is gone, it's going to make our cities even hellish for us. Now, I've been always saying, during my presentations, whenever I do, is that the transportation planning today should no more be just about reducing the congestion points, which is what has been our traditional approach. We look for congestion points in a bottom-up approach and try to reduce the V by C ratio on those congestion points. But it is also today about reducing the overall vehicle kilometers traveled by motorized mode on the whole network, so that our dependence on fossil fuel is reduced, and thereby we would also see reduction in the exhaust emissions. So keeping vehicle kilometer travel minimized by motorized mode is the key transition from the traditional transport planning that we have always been doing. And eventually all this should lead to more livable intensities. This is what should be the goal of any transportation planning or policy interventions, to make the cities more livable. If you don't have that goal in sight, we don't know where we are shooting. Of course, this was comparatively easier to achieve in pre-COVID-19 world, but now it would be more difficult and even challenging in the post-COVID-19 world. Almost impossible, I would say, under a business as usual post-COVID. And so things are more challenging. Now, what do we think about a more sustainable urban mobility scenario? If not business as usual scenario in a post-COVID world. And I would like to get back to the outcomes of our Climatron study, which I had presented extensively in many forums and also at CFD forums, where we have arrived at bundles like this, which are a good combination of planning, regulatory, and economic instruments, bringing in measures that would achieve that desired push and pull. Meaning, like for example, what Tara was talking about, increasing the mode share of public transport, walking, cycling to a desired level, reducing the mode share of cars and two-wheelers and other personal vehicles. So, trying to bring that clear push and pull effect. So, this kind of combination of bundles in the post-COVID scenario, also, I don't think our concepts and these policies would change. The only thing that would change is we can now top up with policies that we have learned from the pandemic. And let me get back to you on that. Now, so in terms of a sustainable urban mobility scenario in post-COVID-19 world, I'd like to throw these core principles to be followed when we think about any interventions and how we bring back the transport system. First of all, reduce the need for travel. I think that's very important, and we have observed and understood how need for travel can be reduced during this COVID period. Things like work from home on some days, staggered and flexible work hours, even education and classes from home on some days of the week, online shopping, home delivery, etc., etc. There are many ways in which we have realized during COVID how we can reduce the need to travel. Second thing is, the second principle is reduce the distance for travel. And we have always been talked about mixed land use policies and planning. The whole idea is, can people live closer to where they work and take education? Uh, so this would not just reduce the distances for travel, but would also enable people to take modes like walking and cycling, since their distances to travel are reduced. And this is in a way translating what our honorable Prime Minister was talking about, vocal for local. That means have your all needs and travel needs within your vicinity, and not traveling along the length and breadth of the city all the time. Third principle, ensure equal access to all, okay, whether it is across gender, across income groups, and differently able. This is extremely important when we think about the post-COVID world, mobility solution. Fourth, infuse more infrastructure for sustainable modes, whether it is priority lanes for sustainable modes, bus lanes, cycle lanes, clear and safe footpaths, etc., etc. More network for MRTS, metro, suburban rails, etc., and increasing the fleet size of these, sustainable modes. Fifth principle, I would say, assign correct priority of movement and right-of-way allocation. We still have a flawed concept of space that we think about. We keep giving more space to, less space-efficient modes. So our priority should be the NMT first, walking, cycling, then public transport, and then personal mobility. Sixth principle, I would say, ensure seamless, contactless, and safe travel experience with sustainable modes, and also incentivize its higher usage. This would not just make it attractive, it will also incentivize people who are using more of cycling miles, people who are doing more of public transport miles, and so on and so forth. Seventh principle, discourage all types of high polluting and high space occupying vehicles per unit of person carried. Any such vehicles, any such mobility option should be discouraged. Things like congestion charging, odd even rule, parking policy, pedestrianizing the busy streets and areas. These are some of the measures that we can think about. Eighth, promoting cleaner vehicle technology and fuel for all vehicle categories. And so, electric vehicles and electric mobility is something that we should look about. And ninth, very important, improve disaster resiliency of transportation system. This is something that has never been the consideration in our sustainable mobility options or in the transport planning process. But this whole crisis has taught us that disaster resiliency of transportation system is very important. For God's sake, no more elevated corridors, please. It will be a pity if we don't learn from our lessons from even such a pandemic. It's, and somebody has said, it's only fools who repeat mistakes. Hopefully, will not be fools. Uh, Talking specifically about cycling, it fits very well under the COVID-19 situation. It takes care of both social distancing and sustainable mobility, which is actually affordable to all sections of the society. That's the best part with cycling, and what a great day to talk about cycling. But what needs to be done to make it to make cycling a attractive option? First, we need policies to increase more share of cycling. All policies that would help us enhance the percentage of trips that are going on cycling. We need a city-wide network of safe cycling infrastructure, not just one corridor, not just one street or one lane, but a city-wide safe cycling infrastructure, and which is not just the temporary pop-up, because the fear is these pop-up infrastructure, while they are good to start, they will quickly be popped down if the policy interventions are not brought in. Rejuvenate the bicycle sharing systems. Unfortunately, 2, 3 years back, we had almost 10, 12 companies in the bicycle sharing space. Today, all of them have gone. It's unfortunate, because of various issues. We need to rejuvenate these bicycle sharing systems so that there is a good supply of cycling. We need innovations to make cycling a mode for all purpose, age groups, gender, and for traveling longer distances, make it more weather resistant and a safe mode. A lot of innovation can happen to enable that. Today, if you think about using cycle for going for shopping or going with family, we simply cannot do that. And of course, better integration with public transport, so that even longer trips can be made with the combination of cycling and public transport. And of course, possible integration with other slow speed electric scooters. Cycle lanes, if they are provided, they can also be utilized by these slow speed electric scooters, which would not have too much of differential of their static and dynamic characteristics with respect to cycle. And so they are good to be utilized in the cycle lanes. This will enable those who may find difficult to cycle for longer distances to also travel on these sustainable modes. Of course, executing these measures requires strong integration between government and all levels of transportation agencies, which at this stage is needed more than ever. We have talked about UMTA integrated, body for so long and for enough. This is now time that we should realize and make this integration happen. Quickly, one more slide before I end. This was actually asked to me to also put some pointers for industry, what opportunities lies for them to do R&D. And I'm just putting some possibilities here. First, we need really solutions for contactless and seamless travel in public transport. We have seen this need arising now. We were always talking about seamless travel. A lot more innovation is possible, and a lot more solutions can come from industry. Second, better and innovative cycle designs. You can see the picture here. It's easy to carry a family in cities like Netherlands, Copenhagen, and other places. A lot of innovative cycle designs have been done. We should really do it for our case also. Priority lane infrastructure, the problem we face is if you try to make it more rigid, it's very difficult to implement in the given right of way. We need a priority lane infrastructure which brings it enough rigidity, but at the same time, good amount of flexibility. So that these priority lanes can be more effective within our given right of way and the Indian situation. Technology to improve safety of vulnerable road users, pedestrians and uh, cyclists and two-wheelers. How do we use and enable technology to improve the safety of these vulnerable road users? Better technologies to enable efficient work from home, education from home. For example, I've been seeing, how my son has been taking online classes, but the problem is the teacher would use a whiteboard kept somewhere and focus a camera on that and try to take lessons. Maybe we can, have better technologies to have more effective ways of education from home and work from home, so that these policies would help us reduce the need for travel in future. Platforms to integrate all forms of shared mobility. I think there is a huge scope still, to come up with solutions from industry on how we can enable integration of all forms of shared mobility, and technologies to enable incentivization of sustainable modules. How do we generate miles and capture miles? I think Satya's program on cycle to work was one example in this direction. A lot more can be done to enable these ways of using technology to incentivize the use of sustainable modes, and of course new technology and mode options for service delivery. We have seen the importance of that during this COVID, and in many ways in a new normal, these new technology and mode options can help us have more effective service delivery and help us reduce some travel demand onto the network. With that, I will end my presentation, and on the right side, up on the right side, you can see a photo of this was a recent case that we came across where a girl Jyoti, cycled from Delhi to her native place somewhere in UP or Bihar for almost 500, 600 kilometers on cycle. I think the bottom line is how do we create a a transport system which is affordable and comfortable to all. She took a lot of risk in driving her cycle, carrying her father on back, but a lot more can be done to improve the situation. Thank you, Himanshu. With that, I hand over control back to you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. All right, participants. So this is time for a small exercise. If you all see the chat box of your app, I have sent you a link. This is the link for a small exercise. You have to open the link and fill the Google form with your responses of the questions which have been asked. If anyone is facing problems in accessing the link, you can let us know in the chat box. Please click on the link and fill the survey form. Meanwhile, I'll try to display the survey form on the screen as well. So in case someone is facing any
Himanshu, can you
problem.
take the control back?
Yes, sir.
Thanks.
So I hope everyone is able to uh, open the link and see the small set of questions. If there is any problem anyone sees, you can drop a message in the chat box. So we have approximately 3 to 4 minutes to fill this form. So kindly complete it as quickly as possible. Then we will resume with the presentation of the next speaker. Anyone facing any kind of problem in accessing the link can let me know. We have 2 more minutes to fill the form.
Himanshu, you can paste the link once more in the chat box.
Okay, all right. Okay, so the link is sent again. Anyone who has not been able to see it earlier? If by any chance anyone gets disconnected from the WebEx while filling the form, you can again log in using the same registration ID as well as the password, which was sent to you in the email. Okay, a few participants have already started giving their responses that they have submitted the form. So as soon as you are able to complete the form, kindly write in the chat box that you have filled the form. If I get enough responses, then we'll go ahead with the next speaker. And the responses which you are submitting in this Google form will be used in our question and answer session to address the concerns which participants raise through the different questions. And also these responses along with the speakers inputs will be converted into a small policy brief which we from our side will submit to different urban development authorities throughout the India. There are still few people who are asking for the link. Kindly see the chat box again. I have sent the link again for those who have not been able to get it earlier. Okay, Mr. Mayank Baruni has submitted. Mr. Deepak Gupta is done. Mr. Mohit Nagar is done. Ms. Alaknanda, Mr. Gaurav, Mr. Swagat Kumar. Okay, we'll give last 1 minute to those who are filling the forms. Then we'll continue with the next session of Mr. Sathya. Satya, I have given the presenter privileges to you.
Let me try and share.
Yeah. We'll just give 30 more seconds to all the participants to complete their forms.
Absolutely. Please confirm you can see the PPT and hear my voice.
Yes, your PPT is visible. Great. Audible. Okay, participants, 10 more seconds. Maybe I can start the counter. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, we will start with the next session. We have with us Mr. Satya Sankaran. He is Bicycle Mayor Bangalore. He is also a computer engineer with a long experience of working in public policy. I would invite Mr. Sathya to please take over and kindly introduce yourself once again in detail. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Himanshu. I'm privileged to have a countdown for my presentation. I would like to take this opportunity to thank the National Productivity Council for organizing this on World Bicycle Day of 2020. It's appropriate that we can talk a little bit about bicycling. I would also like to thank the speakers before me, both Tara and Professor Verma, for setting the stage very well. They have already talked about why we should be looking at sustainable mobility, and they have even given pointers to what should be done. So I don't have to repeat some of that. But what I would like to talk about is some of the things that I have actually done with a bunch of people in the city of Bengaluru here. What you see on the screen is cycle stands, which are also being done on Church Street in the city. It is indicative of the move towards how we need to provision good infrastructure so people can feel like switching over to the bicycle. So I'd like to thank the National Productivity Council once again and Himanshu for enabling this. I am the bicycle mayor of Bengaluru. Bicycle mayor is an honorary position which was created by this Dutch non-profit entity called Bikes, BYCS. Globally, we have more than 100 bicycle mayors across the world. It's a network, and more than 40 in India of people. These are common citizens who care for cycling, who care for sustainable transport, and they have come together, they have applied, and they go through a rigorous process of being chosen. And then we form a network where we are able to do a certain things. Now, what is it that the bicycle mayors do? We just aim to increase the number of people riding a bicycle in the city and shift the mode share to a more favorable one towards non-motorized transport and towards cycling. The target that is given is 50 by 30. What does it mean? 50% mode share by 2030. Of course, in India, we can set a more reasonable target of getting 20-30% by 2030. That's quite an achievement in itself. We can calibrate that, but it's an ambitious target. Some of the cities across the world are almost getting there, like the Netherlands. But we have also set our own internal targets and see how we achieve this target. What do the bicycle mayors do? They work with the people, that is you and me, as individuals, as citizens of a city. We would like to travel using a bicycle for commute. We would like to know how to do that. So I work with the people to see how we can catalyze that. I do work with the businesses, the corporates, to see how they can increase cycling in their companies, and see how the cycling industry can come together and get more cycles on the road. I also work with the government to see how they can enable cycling in the city, because they are a big enabler. If you and I choose to do things, which is a very important if that we need to make happen, when we choose to do these things, the government also needs to step in and provision infrastructure, which has already been listed by Professor Verma and Tara. How do we choose to do this? We try to use innovative methods of working with people, and we try to understand behavioral constraints of people. I'll talk about some of them. We also choose communication and outreach as a big part of it. Tara and Srinivas, who are on this panel, do a lot of these things, and I leverage on their expertise as well to see how we can do effective communication, how we do effective outreach to make this a habit. Because I keep saying the government didn't come and tell everybody, boom, there you go, traffic jam. We all made choices, and we do it every day. And the collective of our choices that we make is what ends up becoming traffic on the road. And there are also the built form constraints that come up. And there is a huge thing that the bicycle may need to know, which is public policy appreciation. How do you make public policy? How do you understand? How do you balance out private versus public interest? And how do you tell the government what is appropriate and at what point in time? So that is what the bicycle mayors do. This has been told to you before. This is a number I got off of some of the reports that have been making the rounds, one of which was the TomTom index itself. This is the cost of traffic congestion per year in four major cities. I'm not even talking about the air pollution health hazards that each individual has because of these things. I thought this might be interesting to all you people who are listening in the Productivity Council. This is directly productivity loss. Every hour you spend on the road fighting a battle inside your car, you're going to lose that productivity that you might as well spend doing something at work or spending time with your family. And I think it's important to remember that this is across four major cities. Bangalore alone, one of the quotations was like 34,000 crores in a year. So there are massive productivity losses because of the choices we make in transportation. So productivity is not necessarily only inside your office. Everything that gets you to the office also becomes a drain on your productivity because commuting is a major part of getting to work, going back. Some of some of this post-COVID will reduce because we've seen that it is possible. But whatever remains, we need to be able to address. This has already been addressed by the speakers. I will not spend too much time. I would just say this, I'll just repeat what has been said. We have made tremendous gains in air quality, in how we see our cities as clean, healthy. We also know that beyond the vaccine, our health is going to be a very important um, uh, angle to fight viruses and diseases. How much of it can we keep now? We need to hold on to these gains. Don't let it go back to the old normal. This has been said already. Craft a new normal. Now, can we craft is a question that can be asked. Yes, we can is the answer we all can give. And how do we do this? Yes, there are challenges in bicycling. Fitness is a challenge, but then you need to cycle to get fit and do other things to get fit. And if you say I am not fit enough to cycle, you see the circular reference over there. You need to fix that. You need to get started. Safety is a challenge. It needs to be addressed like how these speakers have addressed. There is a infrastructural angle which provisions safety. There is also a behavioral aspect of who is the person knocking you down and what is his empathy towards cyclist. How do we communicate that? If you're in a car, you're knocking a cyclist down. Why are you doing that? What is leading you to do that? And how do we reduce that? We have to work on that regardless of whether you're on a cycle or not. Even a pedestrian or a cyclist, or even when you're in a car, every 4 seconds, there is somebody dying in a road accident in India. Why? That is irrespective of whether you're a cyclist or not. Our attitudes towards road safety needs to be partly it is infrastructure, partly it is behavior. We need to address both. We can go into the house if you have more questions later. This is something that Professor Verma also referred to. This is an incentivization platform we built. It's called the Cycle to Work platform. It's accessible publicly at cycle2.work, cycleto.work. There is a leaderboard that we use. It has two functions. One is to serve as a competitive leaderboard. What you see here, it excites people. Earlier, bike to work scheme were always in one company. You would all decide as a company to come on a Friday or come on one day in a month or one day in a year as bike to work. You never knew how many other people in your city cycled. You always thought you were the only five people and gave it up very quickly. This is surfacing everybody else in your city who's not everybody else, a percentage of them who have access to technology are using this to motivate themselves, because the people who have access to technology also have access to other modes that they can choose, and we would like them to switch to cycling. There are more than 209 companies which are represented here. Over the last 1.5 years, we launched it on the Car Free Day of September 22nd, 2018. We've been tracking since October of that year. Over 1.5 years, we've clocked 76,000 trips, 6.5 lakh kilometers, translating to 160 tons of carbon dioxide. Um, this is very important. These numbers are very useful. Of course, it can be bigger. It is more than this, but it's a representative sample. You can see all the companies. The people who are there, you're seeing their names are all the ambassadors of these companies. These are the riders, these are the trips. They are ranked not by kilometers, they are ranked by how many people are cycling in their company and how many trips they make, how frequently they use it. And these ambassadors are about scaling the leadership. They go to their company and do these bike to work days. And when they clock these rides, it is tracked via technology. So the future of technology is being utilized right now. And this is you don't have to stand on a street corner anymore. I mean, you still need to do for the blue collar workers who don't have access to technology, but there is technology available now. We will use other modes like street corner counting counters and things like that to count the other people as well. So this is one important thing, and this has catalyzed a huge cycling community. The In the post-COVID world, I would just talk about this. During COVID, March 29th, we started something called Relief Riders. What this did was, in during COVID times, senior citizens were worst affected. So we ferried essentials. This is the first time in the country about 75 cyclists gathered together and said, "Let us help senior citizens to keep them in their homes." We did. We helped about 200 plus senior citizens. We clocked about 1,400 kilometers on cycle. An equivalent on a motor vehicle would have been 400 kilograms of carbon dioxide emitted. We saved that by doing it on a bicycle. We helped the elderly, kept them home, and we helped. Cycle came to the rescue during the crisis. Many others after that followed in many other cities also. It is now happening. But on March 29th, we started and we've done that much. So numbers are there, help is there, humanitarian effect is there of a cycle. And now we are saying post COVID, let's reset our cities with cycling. We need to look at We can't look at the old normal like everybody said. How do we capitalize on this window of opportunity that we have? Each one of us can make a difference. Let us reset our city with cycling. This campaign has multiple angles to it, one of which is the infrastructure side. While I agree with Professor Verma that pop-up cycle lanes can be pulled down, we wanted to get a quick start and make a statement. The tenders are still there for the permanent bicycle lanes, but people want to see some visible action, and this gives the government a nice way to start. Just like you see in the picture, the bus lanes also have those bollards. We are trying to put bollards right next to it on the service road, so the bus lane and the cycle lane exist side by side and people can move back and forth, and it can help the shared bicycling also. So there is no interference by motor vehicles between these two modes. So we have formed a full nice corridor. So it will come on the right side of the service road. This outer ring road, 52% of the companies on my cycle to work is on the outer ring road. This is what statistics does. It helps you understand, but that's because they are the people who are tracking, and it's a different type of corridor. On the Pina belt also, which is a different industrial part of town, also there are a lot of cyclists. We need to get there. But this gives an intervention that is useful for people. Now we have to go out there and get people to ride a bike. So this is one of the ways in which we work with the government. Who you see there are the police commissioner of Bangalore City and the commissioner of Directorate of Urban Land Transport under the Urban Development Department. And you also see some cyclists there who came and talked about uh, what does it mean to cycle? Can we do this on the left side, right side? So there was public involvement in some way, or at least the cyclists who actually take a bicycle and cycle. So the proposal is out there. We'll have to see how it goes. I will leave it at this. There are many more interventions that we have done. We can talk about it if you have any questions. I'd just like to leave it like this. There's no better time than now. It has been said, but each one of you can get in touch with me or anybody else and ask about what can I do and how can I do it. I can help you with how I can do. What you can do has been enumerated by the other speakers before me as well. So thank you very much. I'll wait for any questions and I can cede the control back to Himanshu.
All right. Thank you, Sathya. Thanks a lot for your session. Uh, just for information, because a lot of questions are being asked by the participants, I would like to mention once again that question and answer will be taken at the end of the session together. So right now it's time for the fourth session by Mr. Mrigesh Kumar Gupta. Mr. Mrigesh is a physics coach at one of the premier coaching institutions of IIT in Kota. But that is by profession. By education, he is an engineer, and by interest, he is an avid cyclist. He is a ultra triathlete. Those who do not know what is an UltraMan, UltraMan is an event with three different combination of three sports where you have to, which you have to complete in 3 days, which includes a lot of running, swimming, as well as cycling. So I would like Mrigesh to introduce himself in slightly detail and tell us about the work and his journey, and also then take over on the session with respect to our theme. Mrigesh, I have shared the presenter rights with you. Are you able to see? Yeah, you need to unmute.
Thank you.
You can share your screen.
Just a minute.
Yeah, it's visible. Please go for full screen. Slideshow. Yeah. Please directly go to the slideshow. You can press F5.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Please start.
Hello, everyone. Myself, Mrigesh Gupta. I'm an ultra triathlete. Okay, I'm basically working to promote cycling as a sport. Okay. So I would like to thank NPC for inviting me as a speaker and all the speakers who have given a brief introduction and awareness about how cycling has to be grown up in the country post COVID-19. So first of all, first I have to tell you what is cycling. Uh, what I do as a cycling. So I completed UltraMan. So UltraMan is an international sport, international event which includes 10 kilometer of swimming, followed by 421 kilometer of cycling, and followed by 84.4 kilometer of running. I also completed various IronMan events and ultra running events. So uh, how I started? I started I was gradually teaching in Alavilli Institute at Kota, and as I'm connected to the youth, the students, the future of the country, so I believe this message will be well shared and well applied if we talk and share our message to these students. Okay. So this is an outcome-oriented webinar. So I must say the learnings from this webinar must be applied and must be applied to us, to ourselves, our daily life. That will be the best way we can conclude this webinar. So how I promote cycling? Initially, we started cycling as a sport. Initially, we started cycling as a sport. I used to ride from one city to city. I rode more than 500 thousands of kilometers from one city to other city in a single go. Then slowly I realized actually the common mass is not getting connected to the sport. So what is the problem? What I figured out is the actual masses is not interested in long distance cycling. They are not interested कि what you do अगर आप कोटा से जयपुर जाते हो या कोटा से दिल्ली साइकिल से जाकर वापस आते हो इसमें हमारा क्या फायदा है. So we people are basically focused on our own interests. So I changed my method. I changed my learnings, and I what I did is I started promoting group rights. I started promoting community rights. I started working on community welfare. We have cycling clubs like Kota Cycling Community, Cyclorods, and many other clubs. I joined these rides, and we what we work is we promote cycling destination ride called as destination rides. We ride from the center of the city to a particular temple or to a particular sightseeing point. So to add the number of riders in the community. Through these rides, what we do is we make the ride enjoyable. We have party time. We make learnings of the bike repair and effortless riding. This is how we started. I move to the next slide. So, what are the benefits of cycling? Most of my friends have already communicated the technicalities, so I will restrict myself to the basics and how we can connect. Especially, I am when I am from a two-tier city, so I will restrict myself to how we can connect cycling to the masses, to the villagers, to the middle class, to the upper class. So benefits of cycling, as the picture is self-explanatory, our PM Narendra Singh, Narendra Damodar Das Modi is gifted a cycle by Dutch Prime Minister Mark Rutte. Okay, and he comes from a country which has more cycles than its own population. When I went to Netherlands, there was many stories connected to cycling, that the lake is filled with cycles. So next we come to slide immunity. So what are the benefits of cycling and how we can fight this pandemic COVID-19? There are various ways to improve immunity and to fight various allergies. So most of us have lots of learnings in this COVID-19, like yoga, running, cycling, proper nutrition, and lots of medicines have been suggested by Ayush Mantralaya, and how proper rest for anger and stress management, and the right positive mindset, which we are imparting through these talks and webinars like we are conducting today. So cycling is for health and fitness, and you can easily socialize. Like when you commute, if you commute by a bike, you pollute the environment. If you commute by a bike, you are not social distancing because there is a one rider behind your back. So cycling is the best way to commute pollution free and with social distancing. There are other benefits as well. So basic question is why people don't saddle. The biggest reason we have seen in the recent poll as well. The biggest reason is safety reason. Why people don't cycle is they are vulnerable. They are prone to accidents, vulnerable roads, improper lighting. So the fact says there are 3,499 people met in a road accident in 2019 during cycling. But believe me, this number is much smaller than people who die due to poor health disorder like diabetes, cancer. So, what are the causes? The safety issues also include proper cycling lanes and traffic awareness and population. Left side, you can see the designated lanes. This was a picture clicked by me when I was in Paris during my IronMan near Eiffel Tower. And side is a picture of a normal Delhi traffic. You can easily distinguish what is the biggest problem, why people don't cycling. You can see the population is the issue, the cycling lane is the issue, the traffic knowledge of the people is the issue. Another aspect you can see the lot of traffic, lot of cars. You can also see the cars are coming in the lanes of cycle, and this is the exact reality. When I ride on the bike, I can see the taxi honking on from the back, or buses crossing nearby, or the bikers not respecting me. Unlike the developed countries, yeah, European countries, where actually where I went, so I saw when I was near the road, the cars, the trucks all stopped watching me from the far distance. They have huge respect for the pedestrians, they have huge respect for the cyclists, and what they do is they stop and allow us to go. So you can see the pictures, there are potholes, there are pedestrians walking on their phones and they don't observe the cyclists. There are a lot of slippery tracks. Okay, the most physiological reason why people don't cycle is today it is still a concept that cycling is for the poor, cycling is for the masses, cycling is for the inferior class of people. You can see a picture clearly shows people ride to cycle and gym. Outside they park the cycle and inside they go in air conditioned gym. So they believe that gymming is a high standard issue and cycling is a substandard issue. This mindset has to be shifted. You can see easily the prime ministers of France that they commute by cycle to the parliament, but this is not the case in India. So we have to start some mission. Another reason is the price of bicycle. मोस्ट ऑफ माय फ्रेंड्स व्हेन दे आस्क, मेरे बहुत सारे दोस्त जब मुझसे पूछते हैं कि यार भाई साइकिल चलाना चालू करते हैं, कोई साइकिल सजेस्ट करो. तो आई टेल देम कि कितने की साइकिल लेनी. तो दे जस्ट से 1,000 2,000 की साइकिल चल जाए. But they have not realized that actually the cost of cycles have grown much higher. When I mentioned that my cycle cost more than 3 lakh rupees, which I used to participate in a triathlon. and the Atlas Gold Line, which we used to ride while our childhood when we go to schools, is actually just costing 1,000 when I was like in the year 2000. So what are the basic? This is the biggest problem why people don't ride. बहुत सारे दोस्त जो हैं प्राइस सुनते हैं 15,000 20,000 की भी साइकिल आती है या एटलस गोल्ड लाइन नॉन गियर साइकिल अगर हम बात करें तो वो भी 6-7 हज़ार तक की चली जाती है. तो दे बिलीव कि यार इससे अच्छा तो हम साइकिलिंग नहीं करें, कार ही ठीक है, and they give up. And one of the biggest reasons for this expensive pricing is one of the reasons is 12% taxation while we have only 5% tax on e-bikes. Another bigger reason of not cycling to work is sweat and sticking problem. This is one of the genuine problems. Europe, it is a colder climate, but in India, we have a hot climate, and people don't move with sweat to the office. So, if we have designated showers or changing rooms provided in the office, then cycling will definitely be useful for those who believe cycling is healthy. Cycling is very popular in the West. There are many reasons. In fact, Netherlands is the country which has more number of cycles. You can say 23 million cycles, and its population is just 70 million. And they are expecting more and more and more investment to promote cycling as a commute. You can see designated cycling lanes, and people follow traffic signals. There are various pie charts and diagrams, graphs also shown. You can see the maximum participation, maximum proportion of cycle as percentage of total number of trips is more than 27% in Netherlands, uh, and it comes down to almost less than 5% in various countries like India. India it is less than 1%. There are various technical data trends of bicycle use are given. There are lot of growth been seen since 2005. More people are frequently on road and traveling a greater distances. In fact, 4 years back I was not cycling, and now I actually paddle to office daily. And for rides like weekend rides or casual rides, training rides, I do indoor training as well as an outdoor rides of more than 1,000 kilometers per month, which is practically more than the kilometers mileage of my car. There are various other data also. I will not take much of the time. Social differences in trends in bicycle use. Particular ride bicycle among adults and young adults up to 30 years of age. Position and use of e-bikes. E-bikes has been very popular in Europe. Recently, I went to Switzerland. What I found is they have safe rent a bike concept where they park their bike, lock it, and pay from their mobile phones. These concepts must be popular, must be supported by the government. So, cycling has various advantages, as previously mentioned, like the boxes moving in the cities, like cars. You can see the volume. A car has 20 meters square of volume, while a tram has 7 meters square for 50 occupants, and a cyclist has 5 meters square, and it can be parked within 2 meters square. So this is the space saving mechanism. So what initiatives we can take to promote cycling as a commute post COVID-19? There should be wide shift in mindset and attitude of people. लोग तिरस्कार की नजर से देखते हैं जब कोई साइकिल से गुजरता है, सोचता है गरीब आदमी, बट ऐसा कुछ भी नहीं. Okay. यूरोप में देखा जाए तो वहां पर जाके प्रेसिडेंट प्राइम मिनिस्टर की साइकिल से जाते हैं, मेयर्स ट्रैवल बाय साइकिल. So we have to make a wide shift mindset. How can this be done? We have to promote contactless travel. We have to promote discourage distance travel. Our offices should be nearby. Like my office is 800 meters away from my home. So I normally commute by car, by bike, or by walking. Alternative work from home concept will be promoted post COVID-19. This will be very helpful. Promotion of e-bikes for commute and a mutual support and respect. This is the most important point. When I see a cyclist, I just stop and let him pass by. But on the other side, when I am riding, I see many of the cars honking behind my back, and like they cross very closely, and I basically fear out. So mutual support and respect is much needed, especially when we train our fellow friends for promoting cycling. Most of does not know how to repair a bike, repair a puncture. This support must be provided. Initiatives from the government. There are various initiatives government can take, like safety to be prioritized with measures like cycling in walking lanes, proper lights, and safe roads, designated parking spaces for cycle. The concept rent a bike is very popular. So these designated parking zones will help to robbery of cycles and threat to loss of cycle through lowering the cost of cycles may be surprise, but it was also tweeted us by us yesterday to Minister Shri Piyush Goyal that GST on e-bikes is just 5%, but on manual cycles is 12%, which further increases its cost. Special cycling tracks, green zones, racing tracks must be provided, especially for cycling. For me, when I train for cycling, I use my indoor trainer. But if cycling tracks are provided, I will definitely go out for safer roads. Technology supports for concepts like rent a bike. This was like 2 years back. 2 years back, Pradhan Mantri Cycle Yojana. Thousands of cycles were delivered to poor, similar to like cycles, Silai machine and Swachh Bharat. This gave lot of support to many of the villagers to commute to their schools and offices. So how we can go ahead? A revolution is needed, preferably by none other than our role model, Sri Modi, because he is the icon, and what is said by him, what is once communicated, will like spread like a fire in the forest. जैसे इन्होंने खाली कोविड के लिए और भी अलग अलग मेथड्स लिए थे, स्वच्छ भारत अभियान में योगदान था, वैसे ही साइकिलिंग के लिए भी एक योगदान का जरूरी है. Yesterday
Mrigesh,
the
I have to
CEO,
interrupt here. Mrigesh, I have to interrupt. We have just 2 more minutes for you to complete.
yeah, okay. So just to conclude, yesterday I just saw a post of shared by United Nations. So amid pandemic, cycling is a great way to move around and stay safe. You can see, just read the line. Uh, the COVID has limited our movement and activities, but one diversion that remains pandemic approved, that is cycling. I repeat this statement by United Nations. One diversion that remains pandemic approved, that is cycling. It was also approved by World Health Organization. So lastly, I'll not take much of the time. So this is the last creative. And for any queries, you can contact me at brigesh007@gmail.com. And just I want to say, if you want to start commuting by cycle, you have to first change your mindset. That's all, and there will be a wide shift in the outcome. Thank you.
Thank you, Brigesh. It was a nice, insightful session. All right, participants, we have one more exercise for you. Already we are running out of time. So I would like you to see your chat box. Now you are already quite customized how to fill a Google form. Please see your chat box. You have to fill another Google form and submit your responses. You have exactly 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we will start the last session. Are you able to see the link? All right, you can see it now. So your time starts now.
Himanshu,
Yes, sir. Please tell me.
there is no sound is coming.
सर मेरी आवाज आ रही है?
हाँ आ रही है.
जी सर.
I have to speak now.
All right, sir. Meanwhile, when participants are filling the form, I would request our Director General, Mr. Ashok Kumar Jha, to kindly acknowledge about this session and please share your opinion about this or the issue.
Thank you, Himanshu. Thank you, speakers, and thank you, participants. This topic has been a very, very wonderful topic, and I believe that all Indians must be, must be starting using this bicycle for their own good. If you remember that, once upon a time, whole bicycle industry has gone for a big loss. But then government of Bihar and government of West Bengal, they started giving bicycles to every girl student so that they can go to their school on bicycle. And that turned around the whole bicycle industry. The point I'm trying to make is, bicycle is the lifeline for rural area. Bicycle is the lifeline for the forest area. And there are different places where you can use bicycle, but you cannot use anything else. If you want to go to any place in those areas by bus, it will take 4 hours, but bicycle it will take 1 hour. I'm telling you that your topographical constraint which India is having, that is one. Second one, from the health point of view, that is the best. Now the third point is, I'm sharing, it is a concern. India does not have bicycle track. Indian roads are not at all safe for bicycle. So we must generate opinion for the transport industry, transport ministry, that bicycle should be given a separate track. And there should be some kind of opinion that all model of transport, they should respect cycle. Because in Delhi, like I also have a bicycle with me, but I can't dare to go to the roads because I am afraid that somebody will hit. The point I'm trying to make, that bicycle is the lifeline, and we must give respect to bicycle, cyclist, and we should try to promote in all the sectors. And the transport ministry, that car, two-wheeler rider, bus, etc., they must give respect, must give way to cycle. Like the way we give way to pedestrian, we have to give way to bicycle. That is my point which I just wanted to add. And I thank every attendee, every participant for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Since we are already short of time, we will go ahead with the next session. All the participants kindly come back to the WebEx screen. Mr. Srinivas Alavilli, again from Citizen for Bangalore Group, is with us, and he will be sharing his experiences as well as what are the different things, various initiatives which as a citizen we can do, and what are our expectations from the government will be taken up by Srinivas. Welcome, Srinivas. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Himanshu. Can I share my screen now?
Yeah, I just handed over you the presenter rights. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Can you see me? See my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Himanshu, for me and International Productivity Council. And I'm very happy to hear about Council and so many of you how to improve our productivity and
Srinivas, your
mobility.
voice is breaking.
Okay.
His voice is clear actually here, so it might be local connectivity issues. Srinivas, you are audible. Please go ahead.
Particularly thrilled with the Director General's assurance about the interest in cycling, and I think we are at a very interesting point of time where people are thinking about the environment and climate crisis. Before the COVID, we didn't have time to think about it. Few of us were thinking about it, but the general say that traffic and pollution are not respected or understood by a lot of people because we haven't spent enough time communicating. What I will do in my 10 minutes today is working on things that you heard. Expert. I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm just a and we try to mobilize public voice towards more sustainable solutions. So what I will try to do is capture some of the lessons that we have learned in the last 4 years. Okay.
Srinivas ji, you may switch off the video. That might help.
All right. I can't see the switch off now.
The control will be on the screen.
Top of your screen.
Okay.
Are you able to see the video button?
I'm not able to. I'm not able to see the video button.
It shall be on the top of your screen. If you hover the mouse on the top, it will come down automatically.
For the Mac, it's
All
at
right,
the
got
bottom.
it.
All right.
All right. Is it gone now?
Yes.
Any better?
Please
Any
go
better,
ahead,
guys?
Srinivas. Yeah, it's better. Please go ahead.
All right. So, what are the things that we learned by doing this? And many of you will probably go back and try to do something at the end of this workshop. Policy brief, and the Director General has spoken about how cycling can be promoted going forward. The bicycle mayor in Bangalore and many other cities are pushing the cycle agenda very hard. What can we do as individuals and as in your case, many of your cases, you are also part of a government agency working on improving productivity of the nation, and you might want to take these things forward. So my goal here is to give you some, kind of practical tips and lessons that we learned, so you can take things forward. So these are the campaigns on the left side that you see that we have run over the years. I didn't put everything there for the sake of just giving you a glimpse of what we did. So these are all public campaigns, meaning we did something with them. We either submitted petitions, signature campaigns, protested on the streets, went to the chief minister, various things like that. Online petitions, you name it, we have done it, right? Postcards, any of these things, and almost all of them have resulted in some kind of change, not necessarily exactly what we wanted, maybe in part and incrementally and so on. But the point is that we've got a response from the powers to be, from the decision makers. So based on that, we keep going and keep trying and working on more things. So these are the 5 things that we've learned. I'll enumerate each of the minutes. First one would be research. So what is research, right? So I think you heard from one of the best mobility experts in the country and probably in the world, Dr. Professor Ashish Verma. He works on the transportation engineering in one of the world's best institutes called Indian Institute of Science, right? And we often work with him and learn from him on what is the theory behind it. We know that there is traffic, but why is there traffic? What is happening? What mistakes have we done, or what can we do going forward? So for this, you need to first understand the mobility concepts. What are these mobility concepts? There are not many of them. It's actually quite simple. There is something called mode share. A mode share is nothing but, if your city has so much traffic, how many cars do you have? How many two-wheelers do you have? How much of footpath do you have? How many people use metro or suburban train every day versus how many people use two-wheelers or cars to go to their office every day? So these are the different modes of transport: walking, cycling, two-wheeler, four-wheeler, bus, train. So you need to understand what these modes are in your city. Then you need to understand what non-motorable transport means. As the name clearly indicates, it's basically walking and cycling. So when the share of non-motorable transport in the total traffic increases, it reduces the traffic by that much. Not only it reduces traffic congestion, it also reduces the pollution. So we have to realize the difference between these things. And then there is a thing called multimodal integration. Do a lot of people come when they come down from a bus or a train? What do? Do they walk? Do they take? Do they park their? Do they take to? Or can they take a bus to the metro? All these things make a lot of difference. So we need to understand what is the pattern of this in your city. Many of you are from different cities, and each city has its own unique challenge. Bangalore has amazing, very famous for traffic problems, so we have a different issue. But in other cities, it can be something else. The most important research or a concept that everyone needs to understand is that urban mobility is about moving people, not about moving vehicles. All the time, the people in the government or in the engineering department, they're all trying to figure out how to move vehicles. Can we make wide roads? Oh, this road may extend कर सकते हैं? Can we widen the road? So therefore, more cars can go on it. So this junction, we put a flyover on top of it, then people can easily cross it. This is the thinking. The thinking comes from the fact that we need to move vehicles fast. It is almost like everybody understands traffic means moving vehicles. This picture, it's a world famous experiment, is done everywhere in the world, is to show how much people are in the three pictures. All right. In the first picture, they're using cycles. Second picture, they're using cars. Third picture, they're using bus. So how much space does it take to move 70 people from point A to point B? So you can very clearly see that the personal private transport is a huge waste of resources. Not only it clogs our roads and creates traffic problems and parking and all the other issues with it, but it also pollutes. There are emissions there. Is it necessary to emit so much pollution to move the same people when there is other options available? So if you want to design your city, the fundamental principle of designing is to move people. Then you need to understand your mobility in your city is. What in your city? Are new colonies coming up in the outskirts? Is there suburbs happening? Who is working where? In Bengaluru, nearly 6 lakh people work in one little road called Outer Ring Road. The entire either coming here or going from there. If you solve that problem, you would have solved the traffic problem. So you need to understand what is happening, and there is, intuitive ways of knowing about it, and then there is a scientific ways of knowing about it. Does your city offer safe walking and cycling? If not, why not? If you are from Jaipur and the number of cars are increasing, tourists probably are most happy to walk around to see the sights, but they might have to go from point A to point B. So is the city designed for that kind of access? And what about daily commuters? And a lot of times, as incomes increase, India is becoming more and more, wealthier country. It's a very good thing that's happening. But a car or a two-wheeler are seen as a symbol of status, a symbol of, getting for buy vehicles, and there's nothing wrong with it. They should have their own vehicles. But are they switching from a public transport to a private transport for the daily commuting? Maybe they can still use the bus to go to their office and use the car for other purposes that they do. Then you need to research and understand what is happening, who is saying what in your city. Are they promoting? Are they saying important? We need to make cycling important, or are they saying that look, we need to build more flyovers because there are more cars are being coming into our city? And who are the environmental groups and resident groups that are working on? Understand these things. Find out who your is. Who is the subject expert in your city? I'm sure there is one or two. Find out who they are. If you can't find locally, find nationally, some other city in the state capital, wherever it might be. These are the people that you want to work with to articulate your problem correctly with data and figures and facts. And you need to identify friends that will work with you. Like those of us in CFB, all of us on this call today, we can be your friends. If you want to do something in your city, you can reach out to us directly or through Himanshu, and we'll work with you and see what we can do to help you in doing what you're doing. And by conducting surveys, you will not only gather information, you will make more people part of solving this problem. And that is how you start your work on, making your city more, pollution free and traffic free. The demands. How do you articulate your demand is very important. You can write a full one pager, or you can put one image, a picture of people. In the beginning, Tara showed you pictures of cars in different cities and Delhi and all these places. So sometimes that one visual image can convey everything that you need, and they need to be local. You can't show a picture of Amsterdam and Dublin and Bengaluru and to convince the local people to agree to what you're saying. So you need to figure out how to do this, and you need to understand what is the demand that you're making. Is it cycle lanes? Do you want somebody mentioned the tax on cycles? Who needs to reduce the tax on cycles, GST on cycles? It comes under the GST Council. Will that work from level, or does it need to be a national campaign? If you want a cycle lane in one of the busiest roads of Kota, the Kota Municipal Corporation need to act on it. The Kota Traffic Police need to support it. So who are the heads of those organizations? What needs to be done? Is the demand practical? Are you asking for that are impossible to achieve? Then you're not going to go anywhere. Can you make it in a fashion that the person that is listening to the debate, ye to theek hai, we must do this. At least we should be able to do this. And the last and most important thing of any demand is make it a instead of protesting and criticizing and saying you are wrong, you made a mistake, you ruined it. Can you create an environment and a demand that those that need to respond will think that if I did this, it's good for me, for my for my official career, or I'll have a job satisfaction of doing something nice for my city. If the people in the positions of power think that your demand is good for them or deliver, then you will make a lot of progress. So we demand, the top left you see called Bus Bhagya Beku. You see the two demands right under the white banner. Half the face, 50%, and double the buses. And see the news, and that was in 2019. In 2019, we got finally we government to cut the fare. 6,000 buses. We asked to double the bus. We got 6,000 more buses. Our demands have been, they're not yet on the ground fully, but the government responded to it and has been continuously working towards it. That means the voice that we are able to create, noise that we are able to make is productive, and government is actually responded to that. So that is the power of it. That is very effective. Message. Sathya talked about the message and communication. If there's anything that is one that you can learn from all of this workshop is all communication. You remember, many of you, I don't know what age group you are in, but when we were young, I grew up in the 80s and all that, and the people were smoking all the time, right? You have your uncle and your mama will come home, he will sit in your living room, he will smoke. And your mother will not object, you will not object, you will be sitting and doing your homework or talking to that person, and the person is smoking. It is not seen as a bad thing. The danger of secondhand smoking was not understood. Slowly, because the scientific community has put out all the research and media and everything, now can you imagine your mama coming and sitting in your house and your children are there? First of all, he or she won't even smoke in front of children. And if them, bahar jao, out of here, not here, right? Instantly we'll say that. Why? Because the message has been understood that secondhand smoking is dangerous. Even the people that don't smoke can be affected by somebody else smoking, secondhand. That took a lot of time for it. But now our communication channels have completely changed. Social media, everything, media, print media, everybody is doing different things. So if you are able to come up with a emotions, people should be able to say, okay, this is what it means, I can do this, right? And your message should be tailored for different types of audience, so they all get what you're saying. You can't give the same message to college students as you give to, say, senior citizens, but you want both of them to support you. So try different messages and get everybody to participate in creating this message. Himanshu has come out with different you know what do you say, posters and tweets and Facebook posts and videos. He asked all of us to send you, say, 1 minute video on why you should come to this, what we'll be talking about. Now, that is a way of creating content without spending any money at all. Maybe Himanshu spend some money, I don't know. But it is, what I'm trying to say is, it's very easy and cheap to create content nowadays. So you should leverage that. You should create content in a way that appeals to you. That means it's going to appeal to your friends and your family. And you are the celebrity. A thing that we all need to understand is that people no longer look at Sachin Tendulkar or some other great personality to know what to do or what to buy. Usually they are commercial. But you are a celebrity to all your friends and family. If you say something, a lot of people are going to take you seriously. And if you did the research and you're saying it from your heart, instead of sharing somebody else's thing, but in your own video, in your own audio bite, that will be taken a lot more serious. So use that. Use that power that you have over people, and then that's how things spreads. Remember that mainstream printed media is the most important communication channel we have. If you want to bring change in your city, your campaign, your demand must make it to the mainstream media. The day it makes it to that, then it gets attention by the municipal commissioner, by the police commissioner, by the MLA, by even the chief minister. Always. They will never. You need to do. All this doesn't mean that you forget the long form narrative, the blogs, the articles. They are extremely important, and you need to find ways to write that. You need to articulate problem, the pollution problem, Jaipur traffic problem, right? What is it that we learned? What can be solution? That can trigger discussions among people that are like-minded. Campaign names itself are very important. In our case, you saw our campaign Shikubuku Beku, Modalu Train. These are all names that demand things and something that people get attracted to participate in it. For example, you could start a campaign called Pollution Free Kota, Karo Cycle Kota. As I was listening to the other presentations, I made up some of these silly names, but I'm sure you can do better than that. Bus lane. It's a simple bus lane, buses going in the bus lane and all the traffic. Remember the picture I showed you earlier about how many people, how much space does it take to carry 70 people? Now we have a local example of that in Outer Ring Road in Bangalore. Look at the bus with 70 people and look at how far you need to go to count 70. The message is clear. This many people, this many cars and two-wheelers are transporting or moving the same people this one bus is taking. Therefore, the bus deserves more space on the road. Therefore, the people that take the bus should go to the than the people that are using the cars. Why? Because they are using a public transport mechanism. Therefore, to their destination faster than somebody who is using a car. It's just simple logic and it makes sense to everybody. And this also inspires some of the guys sitting there and saying, okay, why am I stuck in the traffic? Let me try that bus once a week. And that's how revolutions begin. Same on going to these, but you can see the power of these kind of images. And this presentation will be shared with you, and we can discuss any of you are interested in creating messaging like this. Numbers. The politicians of India understand number more than anything else. The number of people that are asking for something is very, very important for politicians. So we need to understand that and use that to our advantage in making our. And numbers don't always be very big numbers. We wanted to say no to the elevated corridor that the Professor Ashish Verma was referring to. The government was trying to build a 27,000 crore project, 102 kilometers of flyovers. Professor Verma, all of us are convinced that the last thing Bengaluru needs is more flyovers. Why? Because we already have 50 flyovers in our city. These are all the flyovers of Bengaluru. If flyovers are a solution to traffic problem, Bengaluru should not have any problem, right? Because there's so many flyovers already. Obviously, the flyovers are increasing the traffic; they are not decreasing the traffic. So, how do you convey that message to the public officials? So we did all kinds of things, and finally we did that kind of a rally, and immediately the state and asked us to come and meet him immediately. We were still in that protest venue, and within 24 and that's us sitting with him on the top. And then the project eventually got cancelled. So this is not necessary for everything, but if you want to do significant, you have to get there. But you also can have discussions, petitions. Don't go to any before you did all the work, before you written letters and appeals and met with the people, explained your point of view, demanded public consultation. Do all the things that you need to do. If all else fails, then you have to go to the protest route. But the numbers are important. Even when you go and meet your municipal commission, if 20 of you go and discuss with him or her, she will understand the angst of the public and what it is that you're asking. So it's important to create volunteers and group of people that will. We'll come to the last topic, politics. Keep your political ideology out of campaigns. What you think about a certain politician is not important. What you think of pollution or traffic or whatever it is that you're working on is more important. So respect all politicians, give them your point of view in a more objective way, and then they will respond to it. Finally, understand what is the goal that you're trying to get at. Others have talked about it, but I'll skip it. But if you understand what is the modal share in your city right now in 2020, what do you want it to be in 2025? How many people do you want and cycling in 5 years from now? If you think like that, then you will get to the right place. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I hope it helps some of you do some things going forward. Here is how you can follow our work. All the links of CFB are here. We are very if you want to taking things forward. Thanks, Himanshu.
Thanks a lot, Srinivas. All right, participants. So this is it. Overall, we have seen what are the basic issues, what are the basic problems behind our commutes, the problems and the issues which we face on the road every day. We ourselves might be the very reason behind those problems. In fact, one of the interesting response I received in the polls from every one of you was Would you go to work by a bicycle if someone gifted you one? Approximately 60% of you have said yes. So I would request you all to reverse this and put yourself in shoes of the person who's gifting it. All right. So in case you gift a bicycle to someone, maybe your dear near ones, maybe your friend or someone, 60% likelihood is there that the person will go to work by a bicycle. This is as per the responses submitted by you. We have received many other suggestions. We will include all these suggestions as well as your concerns in a brief policy paper, which we will formulate in collaboration with all the speakers which you have listened to today. All right. So, in case you have anything you want to contact or share any more input, you can always contact us. Here is the email ID of myself. I can help you connect with all the speakers as well. Please write to us in case you have more questions. Most of the questions which have been asked by the participants have already been addressed in the chat box by the speakers. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Himanshu.
Thank you, everyone.